going to play you a little song on my flute that was made by Jerry Littlejohn. I don't know if anyone was here and heard her play. We spent 6 months making this flute. I had asked her, as an empowerment of the sacred feminine, to help me come up with a flute and to make a flute in honor of the sacred feminine. And she looked and she looked and she looked through all kinds of different wood until we finally found one, and I wanted it to be cedar because it was sacred. It's a very sacred plant and tree. And when she opened the wood, there was a perfect shape of a woman in the wood of the flute. I thought that was amazing, and there are many different wondrous things that had happened. I went and brought, when it was halfway finished, she said, it needs to come back to you so you can add your artistic touch to it. And so I went to my sacred area, which is a place where I go and sit. It's under a cedar tree. And so I sat and I was drawing the branch of this cedar tree when a herd of deer came out, and the deer is one of my totems. And being a good Gemini, I have 2 totems. One's a deer and the other one's a lion, so that's great. Anyway, so a bunch of deer came out, and so I drew them on the back. The flute is tuned to F, which is the key of the heart chakra. And when you listen to the music, which will be played for the first time ever right now, I would love it if you could connect with the land here. The land here is very sad and sick. It hurts my heart to be here sometimes. And the poison ivy that's all over here is really a guardian plant, and it's here to help heal the land. We always try to get rid of it. We want to round it up because it's, we want to get rid of the poison ivy, but the poison ivy is actually a healer. And one of the first things you can do if you want to really have an experiential learning thing after this is go up to the poison ivy and put your hand, slowly move it towards the plant. And you can feel the energy of the poison ivy going, get away, get away. I've had experiences where I've been blindfolded, wearing a bathing suit, walking through the woods, and I would feel the poison ivy take off the blindfold, and there it would be. One time it was a copperhead, but most of the time it's poison ivy. So anyway, if you really tune into the plants, they will teach you, but you have to listen. And we've had many talks today talking about listening. So I invite you to listen to this shared creation of Jerry and I, and tune into this landscape. This grandfather oak I felt all last night. It's a really powerful tree, and if you don't want to close your eyes and go in, tune into that tree because he's amazing, and just feel the presence of him. I have my cheat sheet here because I tend to ramble, and when I do, I always like to come back to a point. So I was out on this land walking around, and all these little plants were calling to me, and I'm like, what? Why? It's such a random, beautiful random bouquet, and collectively I asked them what they wanted me to say, and one of the things they wanted me to say was that, why are your people not like us? We like to be together and be diverse and be strong in our own individual sacred power, but we want to we work together. We don't do monoculture. When I was in Ecuador in the forests, the farm looks like the forest. You're walking through and you're like, well, where's the farm? And you're in the farm. It's one contiguous landscape. And also, Goldenrod was very adamant about me saying that, everybody blames me for their allergies. When I was growing up, my dad was like, goldenrod, I hate that stuff. It's got causes allergies. He's an MD. And come to find out, you know, in the herbal training, goldenrod actually helps allergies, you know. For those of you who don't know that, you take this much of the plant, top third, aerial parts, fold it over into a quart jar, pour boiling water on it, let it sit for 15 minutes. If you have pets and people don't want to come over because they're allergic to your pets, have them have a goldenrod stalk tea before they come over, and they will be fine. But anyway, so we forget that the plants are here for beauty, and they want us to use them. This is a painting I did of echinacea, and it's on a yellow background because echinacea is good for the immune system. And as an artist, I incorporate color and texture, all different things into my paintings, which is kind of unable to see from there. But the plants communicate in that way. They communicate with their textures, their colors, their beauty, and we a lot of times take for granted that we all can communicate with plants. Who's ever walked into a room when there's been an argument that just stopped, and you look up, the two people look up, or three people, or whoever's arguing looks up, and there you are, and you can tell things are not good? Anybody? That's how plants communicate, okay? So plants, you ever see I'm stealing this from Stephen Buhner, but it was the best analogy I've ever had, and I'm just stealing it from him. But anyway, if you see a little puppy, you know, and he's over there, he's sniffing around, you're like, oh, he's so cute. And it's, you know, he's walking like puppies do, and the puppy hasn't seen you yet, and you're like, oh, look at me, look at me, look at me. And there's a moment when the puppy looks up at you, and you see him, and there is nothing that's going to stop him coming to you, and you're like, oh, and he's licking you and stuff. That kind of communication is a nonverbal thing, but it's a real thing, and we all know it and feel it. And that is how you communicate with plants. I can spot chickweed going 80 miles an hour down the highway because I love chickweed, and chickweed now loves me, and it goes, look at me, you know. It's dangerous to drive with me. But I must say that I have a rosemary plant growing outside of my door. And the rosemary plant is planted probably where that post is, and it's to here now. Now, every day I come out the door, I'm like, Rosemary, I love you. But the thing is, the sun is over there. The sun is in the opposite direction. It's growing towards the shade and towards the dark because the plant likes delight better than light. And so we need to realize that. And we really need to realize that these are living entities. I remember the first moment I was giving a tree talk somewhere, and I was driving up the Saluda Grade, I live in Columbus, and all of a sudden, the impact that each tree, and every single tree out there has a medicinal quality. This pine has 37 medicinal qualities. That oak has 52, okay? I realized the impact of the fact that all these healers were there, and they knew where I was going. And it was like, whoa. It was almost like that time on mushrooms, you know? I mean, it was just like so, everything was like highlighted. And the magnificence of and the importance of being that connected to this world was just amazing to me. Last year at the Southeast Women's Herbal Conference, I was going to do a tree walk. And so I went up early to scout the area. And so I went around and I looked at stuff and I found the perfect place. And I, you know, looked at all the trees I wanted to talk about were there, and they were, you know, I asked, can I teach here? Because, you know, we always go into nature and we just take stuff. We don't ever, like, can I have a class here? Is it okay that, I mean, I already asked this tree yesterday, you know, will you help teach me? And he said he would. So I looked around, I said, yes, so you can teach here. I'm like, great, this is awesome. And I said, will you help me? And they said, no. And I'm like, what? And it was just, by this time, I had to leave because I had to drive an hour home because I only had allotted a certain amount of time. So I'm like, oh, man. I was so mad. I was like, are you kidding me? After all that? So I, you know, come up early to the conference, and I start wandering around, and I kept hearing fire circle, in the conversations of people around me. I'm like, where's the fire circle? And so I found my way up to the fire circle, and there, as I went through a tunnel of rhododendron, and rhododendrons take away pain. the Native Americans used to tie rhododendron leaves around their head for headaches. But it also takes away like emotional pain and psychic pain and that kind of thing. So there's this beautiful tunnel of rhododendron that you went through, and it opened up into this great big place where it was a boys' camp, where these boys over years and years and years have been empowering their like absolute awe of nature, their excitedness, their sacredness. And this oak tree on a hill, which if it fell down the way it was supposed to, would have fallen down right across their little sacred area, split itself in two to go around that. So you can't ask for better help than that. And I have a million stories about those kinds of things, but I encourage you to get your own stories, because the language of plants is universal. You don't have to go to Italy to talk to Italian plants. I mean, you do, but you don't have to learn Italian to talk to Italian plants, because once you know the language of the plants, you can go in any country and speak the language of the plants. I encourage you to look around the area and get to know the plants that are growing right near your house. A lot of them have, there's some sheep sorrel right here, which is like a major ingredient in the Essiac formula, and most people don't just are ripping it out of their garden and go, I hate this stuff, you know. But it's nice and tangy, it's great for salads, and it's completely medicinal. So learning to sense the poison ivy, first test it out on another plant. Go up to, say, a pine tree or something, or some herbaceous plant around, and go up sort of like you're going to touch it, and you'll feel it welcome you, but the poison ivy will say, no, forget it. I'm coming back to my point. One of my superpowers is finding plants. Like if somebody hurt themselves right now, I'll be like, where's the nearest plantain? And I could go find it. Or where's the nearest jewelweed? Which happened when I had a blindfold exercise, and someone did have people leading each other around. One's blindfolded, one's not. And they're like, oh yeah, we know what poison ivy looks like, which was the last time I believed the class. So anyway, the director of this camp was blindfolded, and the student led him up to poison ivy, and she's feeling the leaves, 3 leaves, ooh, then she's feeling more, ooh, hairy vine, oh, that's not good. And she like goes into anaphylactic shock with poison ivy. So she rips off her blindfold, there's poison ivy. So I'm like, jewelweed, where are you? Ran, it was like, I don't know, it was a really long way to the nearest jewelweed. And I got there and there was only one, and you can't pick just one of a plant. So I'm like, where are your brothers, you know? And went to another place where it was plentiful, picked some of that, ran back, put it on her. She never had a reaction at all, which was great for the class, but it was, you know, an emotionally trying thing. So part of it is building a relationship with plants over time. And since I'm on poison ivy, as a relationship, I've had a big, long discussion. There's a couple of websites on edible plants and foraging networks and blah, 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 and they're all arguing about, should we eat poison ivy? Should we not eat poison ivy? Oh my God, you know, because they're, you know, a pinky-sized leaf, allegedly, a couple of times, you know, and then you're free for poison ivy for that season. And I've done it before. It took me a while to do it, but over the 7 years, every year has a story. One time, they said, no, don't eat me. I'm like, oh, I'm free. I don't have to eat poison ivy anymore. And then I got it the next year because I didn't ask, and I was arrogant. And other times, you know, the Native Americans had a whole different relationship with plants. If a plant said no, they knew it. They asked, and if they felt weird inside, that was a no. Or they felt prickly, or, you know, they just knew because they lived outside. Inside wasn't even in their paradigm. Having something over their heads was not, you know, really helpful. And because the trees come up and they bring the spirit down and then root it down, and then the roots take the land and the life force and they bring it up into the spirit, and they're interchangers, and we're meant to be that way as well. And so when we tune into that place in us and tune into that place in the plants, then we communicate wonderfully. Just like when we're all in our strength and not, you know, covered up with our judgments, prejudices, wounds, we can pretty much recognize the light in another human being and be just fine. It's the same with plants. So what I'll leave you with on 14 minutes, I don't want to go over, is start relationships with plants. Honor them. Ask. Ask if you can participate. Ask if they'll help you. Be still and listen. I have my students sit for 45 minutes. At first I start them with 15 minutes, and it goes up to 45, and then it goes up to an hour and a half. in the same spot all the time. And after a while, you're like, come back, and they're like, no, I don't want to. And I'm like, you wouldn't even go for 15 minutes at the beginning of this thing, but they learn to really appreciate the communications with nature, the sounds. I was raising baby turtles one time, and I was thinking about how the birds open the stomas of the leaves to help the plants, and the turtles were sort of failing, and then I put them outside, and all the different sounds coming in, the vibrations coming in, helped those little turtles, and they kind of they got way better in a day, and we let them go. We raised them from eggs. They were so cute. But anyway, that was off. All I wish is that we would reclaim the viriditas, the greening power, the truth of the green nations, and know that your medicines are out here. There's so many things that you can use that are just mind-boggling. And even the spirit of the plant. If you don't have the plant you need, you can call the spirit of the plant to come, and it will. So start experimenting. Trust yourself. You know, the wise women tradition of herbalism is all about trusting yourself. Don't trust someone else to tell you you can't do that or this. You know, learn by being true, having integrity, and trusting yourself, because you know everything right here, and you always will.